Hello and welcome to another episode of the Half-Life Show, where we talk about what we've learned as we go through life. I'm Subu, here with Vikram. And Vikram, what are we talking about today?
So what we're going to talk about today is exactly what the title says, that the New Year resolutions don't work. So instead, what we have come up with is a different format of thinking about how to plan for the new year up ahead. And from what we've tried out in 2022, we think that this method works better.
And also to give credit where credit is due, right? I mean, we were motivated by what we listened to from this podcast called Cortex. And at least that's where I came across yearly themes for the first time. And then I've adopted this system for a few years now. And I think it's working really well, much better compared to resolutions.
What exactly this is instead of coming up with a resolution or a list of things you want to do specifically, what we do is we would like to come up with a theme or a general set of guidelines for the year. Last year, we came up with some themes, which we then spoke about in episode 7 of the Half-Life Show. And I don't know, but we'll talk more about it later. But I feel like it's worked out pretty well for me and what I wanted to achieve in 2022. And what exactly really helps with this way of thinking about yearly themes is that you just use a set of guidelines that you can easily keep in your mind going through the whole year. And then so whatever you try to do or whatever actions you do throughout the year are based on these guidelines. And also you can tell yourself what you will do and what you will not do. Right? So that's kind of the yearly themes. And as we get into more examples, perhaps it'll become like more clearer what we're talking about.
Correct. Yeah. Like one example I can think of is if your intent is to write for your Substack or your blog this year, then instead of having a resolution saying, I'm going to write 100 articles for my blog this year, you would say, hey, this is my year of writing. So you have a theme saying year of writing. It's a much softer way to look at it. I mean, you don't have like a hard goal of 100 articles. Which can be anxiety provoking in its own way when you get halfway through the year, for example, and you haven't written much. And the nice thing with this, calling it an year of writing instead of saying that you'll write 100 articles, is that halfway through the year, you can reevaluate. And if you feel like you haven't made much progress, you will you won't feel like a failure. You won't feel like a disappointment. And it's much easier to refocus and carry from there.
What I came across another interesting idea that ties into this. In business, when they set up goals for the year and what kind of revenue they're going to do, they usually have what is called a lag metric and what is called a lead metric. So what that means is a lag metric would be something that you will know whether you have achieved or not only after the fact. In your example, that would be writing a few articles on your blog would be the lag metric. So you would not know until the end of the year whether you've actually met your goal of 100 articles on the blog or not, right?
Yeah.
The way we frame this would be a leading metric to say that it's going to be the year of writing, or if you want to do it a little bit more in a specific manner, you say, this is going to be the year where I maybe write an hour a day for 5 days a week. So what you can do is you can have a continuously monitored metric going forward as whether you have actually met your goal of writing an hour a day.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I think one of the other advantages of having a yearly theme compared to resolutions, at least for me, is that when I go from year to year, this yearly theme kind of becomes ingrained. It becomes a part of my mindset. For example, 2 years ago, my theme was year of less. And last year, as we spoke in episode 7, my theme was year of focus. Now, just because 2 years ago it was year of less and then year of focus, it's not like it ends at the end of the year. Going into 2023, those two themes have continued. They've become a part of my life, and that's generally how I live my life now. So it's almost like a permanent change in mindset almost. So your yearly themes pretty much carry with you as you go year on year. And that's like something very different that resolutions don't really accomplish.
So one thing that comes to mind is it seems like for everybody in general who makes resolutions, it's usually dead by the time like February rolls around, right?
Yeah.
Like January is the month of all the gym memberships and,
Right.
all the books you buy that you want to read in the year or something
Yeah.
like that. And then come February, it's like not the same as how the first week of January was. You kind of lose steam as you go along.
Correct. So should we go into our yearly themes now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. All right.
What's yours?
So I'll go. All right. So last year was year of focus, right? So this year, 2023, is going to be my year of surrender. Now, to explain what this theme means, yeah,
sounds very defeatist suddenly.
Okay, it's actually, okay. Let me before I explain what this theme means, right, and why I chose it. Let me talk about how I evaluate my last year and talk about how my last year went. Okay. So year of 2022 was my year of focus. And the idea was to pick a few things and focus on them. Right. And so in general, I would give myself an 8 on 10. I think I achieved most of what I set out to do, but I failed pretty badly on one goal, which is managing my day-to-day stress levels and just keeping a calm mind. I kind of felt like all of 2022 went with just a very, I wasn't very happy with my mindset. And even when I was in vacation or like say during time off or something like that, I was just perpetually submerged in this feeling of overwhelm, right? And like a feeling like I have too much to do between home life and work life. And I felt like I'm not able to keep up with the pace of life.
Yeah.
So as we all do, I spent most of December reflecting on the year and trying to figure out the root of this feeling of overwhelm, because that is really the main thing that was bothering me. And I concluded that it really comes down to this voice in my head, which is in a perpetual loop, right? And it's in a perpetual loop rehearsing one of two things. It's either rehearsing the list of tasks that I need to check off for the day or for the week. So when I'm at the dinner table with the family, I am rehearsing the list of things that need to happen after dinner. Okay, put the kid to sleep. Okay, then I need to read this book and then I need to check off that task, etc. So I'm constantly living in anticipation of the next thing coming up instead of experiencing the current moment. I did this like throughout the year.
Okay.
Right?
I can see where your theme is going to go. And although we did not discuss what our themes were going to be before the show, you will see the paths cross when I speak about it. But you keep going. We'll see.
All right. Okay. So now the thing, so it's very important. There's a reason why I'm calling it the voice in my head is rehearsing, right? Because the reason, what I mean by rehearsing is I think about the next tasks for the day. Then I continue thinking about, I keep rehearsing the list. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's like, it doesn't end. I don't make a mental note one time saying, okay, this is what I need to do today. Then I a couple of minutes later, I again think of the same thing. So task list is one thing. The second thing that I keep rehearsing in my mind is conversations that I'm going to have or conversations that just happened. So if I'm going to meet someone casually for lunch, or say if I have an upcoming meeting, then I keep on rehearsing and trying to predetermine a decision tree, right? I'm already trying to frame, okay, if this person says this, then this is what I'm going to say. If he or she asks me this, then I'm going to say that. And I'm purposely building this kind of a decision tree in my mind. And you can, and the one loop is broken only by the next thing that captures my attention. So if I keep rehearsing what this upcoming conversation is, and then say I do something else, and then that rehearsing changes to some other kind of thing, right? So you can kind of imagine how draining and exhausting this whole process is, right? You're going day in and day out, right? And there are these two sentences, two paragraphs I want to read from this book that both of us were recently reading called 4,000 Weeks. And he's written it so well. Okay. He captures all of this. Clearly, I'm not the only one who's facing this problem, because this book, 4,000 Weeks, has become really popular. It's become a bestseller, and he keeps talking about this same thing, about your mind rehearsing. Okay. Yeah. And here is one of the things that he says. Planning is an essential tool for constructing a meaningful life, but the real problem isn't planning. We treat our plans as though they are a lasso thrown from the present around the future in order to bring it under our command. But all a plan is a present moment statement of intent. It's an expression of your current thoughts about how you would ideally like to deploy your modest influence over the future. The future, of course, is under no obligation to comply.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's
We all
like
do
we
this.
constantly live this moment for the next moment. We're always trying
Correct.
to plan for that next thing that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And this is what he says about worry. Worry, at its core, is the repetitious experience of a mind attempting to generate a feeling of security about the future, failing, and then trying again and again and again, as if the very effort of worrying might somehow help forestall disaster. The fuel behind worry, in other words, is the internal demand to know in advance that things will turn out fine.
Yeah.
I think that summarizes perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Somehow my mind is demanding that, hey, that it's rehearsing the same thing over and over again, hoping that this is what will prevent, like trying to control the future in some ways.
Yeah. You're trying to determine or somehow pre-decide what your future is going to look like. And the fact that that does not happen or might not even happen to you is causing you worry the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Right. All right. So I think I've expressed my problem. That was my problem statement. Okay. I think I've expressed it in detail. Now, the solution to this, it came to me when I was listening to some of these lectures by Alan Watts. He was a pretty popular philosopher, teacher, especially in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. Mm-hmm. And so I was listening to his lectures on Eastern philosophy, right? So about Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. So in particular, so this Taoism, which is this Chinese philosophy, has this central tenet called Wu Wei, okay, which translates to no forcing or inexertion. Or put it another way, it means getting out of one's own way or letting things take its natural course. So this Wu Wei is like a central part of this Chinese philosophy called Taoism. And, many people would have seen this Bruce Lee's interview where he says, be like water, right? He's essentially talking about Wu Wei. That's essentially what he's talking about. Don't force, just flow, kind of thing. So I really want to adopt this mindset of, I don't mind what happens, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay to make a plan for the future, but not be constantly on edge worrying whether things will turn out fine or as expected. So that's really that's really the mindset. So this mindset of I don't mind what happens, and it's like I think it's very important for me to say that I'm not saying that I'm just going to surrender and just let life take its course. That's not Wu Wei or none of these things. So that's not what they're saying. You can still make your plans, right? If something bad happens, it's okay to feel emotional and feel bad, or it's okay to plan to prevent disasters and so on. You can do your plan, but then once you've made your plan, that is it. You have stated your intent, and from then on, when something happens, you go through life saying, you know what, I have this important meeting coming up, but I don't mind what happens. It is a very stark change in mindset compared to rehearsing over and over again, controlling a future conversation. It's a completely different change in mindset. And obviously I'm going to have to spend a lot of time doing something, meditation, reading, whatever it is, trying to internalize this mindset of I don't mind what happens. But I think that is the plan. So that is how that's why I'm calling it the year of surrender.
Nice. So you're surrendering to what? Whatever the outcome of you make a plan and you surrender to the outcome. You don't try to force the outcome, but you surrender to the outcome that's going to come out of the plans you made.
Perfect. That is exactly right. So I'm not going to control the outcome, but I'm going to put my best step forward, but not try to control the outcome. And I'll end my piece with this verse translated from the Taoist text. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you enlarge your mind and let go of it, when you relax your breath and expand it, when your body is calm and unmoving, and you can maintain the one thought and discard the myriad disturbances, you will see profit and not be enticed by it. You will see harm and not be frightened by it. There you go.
Nice. Where is this from again?
So this is actually translated from so Taoism. It's text. It's a seminal text is called Tao Te Ching. It's a verse from that book. It is written. It is supposedly from 400 BC or thereabouts.
So, do you want to hear how my year went?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I looked back. Actually, I listened to our last episode because this thing sometimes slips my mind. I'm like, what did I exactly say? It has something to do with health. So that part I remember. So I primarily said my 2022 was going to be a year of health. Okay, so that actually I would say worked out pretty well for me because I have been doing weights resistance training pretty much from the beginning of the year, and I'm still continuing doing that. I've gone through several programs, some of which you recommended to me and all that. And so exercise has been very consistent for me. At least 3 times a week, I've been resistance training. That is very good. I did take a DEXA scan, which is basically measures the total amount of lean mass tissue in the body and on the bone density and all that stuff. And those metrics show improvements from last year to this year. So definitely there are measurable improvements in body composition that I have seen from exercise, right? Health-wise, also, I've been successful in consuming about 0.7, 0.8 grams per pound of my body weight.
Of protein, you mean?
Of protein, yeah, thanks. That's probably about 100 grams of protein a day. So all that stuff has like really helped with my energy levels, how much I sleep, how well I sleep, how well I do at work. This has been a dramatic year in terms of health. So that's worked out great. And like you said, it's something that I can now incorporate into life going forward. It's something that's set. That's something I do at least 3 times a week. On other days, I go for a walk. Sometimes I swim. It is what it is. It's just going to be on the wheel of life now. It's going to keep going.
So that's a really good thing. I mean, like I must say, I mean, compared to where you were a year before and looking at how you've been living, say, the last 6-8 months, it's a complete change. It's like, and calling it the year of health, you and I both have learned so much about eating responsibly. What's the right way to eat? Like cutting through all of this marketing BS that's thrown at you from Instagram articles, etc. Right? Figuring it out for ourselves. What's the right way to eat? Be environmentally responsible. And I think that the workouts, the way we eat, everything has changed from a year ago. And calling it the year of health was great because it has permanently changed the way you're treating your health going ahead. Another, a shout out to this concept of yearly themes. Yeah.
And maybe we should talk about that sometime because we went through such a rabbit hole of like looking for, all this stuff about protein intake and resistance training, because even some friends of mine still talk to me about saying, why is it not enough that I go for a run every day, or it's a form of cardio? Is that not enough exercise? And so why is it that resistance training is an important part of us as we grow older, right? Like that's important. So all that stuff we've kind of gone down the rabbit hole of this year, and that's like a long discussion for another day. But that has really worked out well for me in the past year. And just for anybody listening who me and like athleticism are the 2 farthest things you can ever think about. I never played professional sport of any kind throughout my entire life. I never played for sports teams, nothing. So, and I had like the worst lifestyle as of like maybe 1 year ago. So the changes I've seen have been amazing, and that's hopefully, maybe inspire somebody else to go and, think about what they can do in terms of exercise and stuff like that. And so one of the things that helped was, instead of saying, I'm going to lose so many pounds, or I'm going to change my muscle mass from, 25% to 15% or some random metric like that. What really helped me was having something that will make me do the exercise when the time is right. So for the first half of the year, I had this app called Fitbod on my phone. They are not sponsoring the show. We have no affiliation to them at all. But that was a really good app, because all I did was I opened up the app and it tells me what I need to do, what I need to lift and how much weight I need to lift. I just do what it tells me. I can set the time I have in the app. It sets like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, anything like that. And you do that and you leave. Go ahead with the rest of your day, right? So if you set yourself up as Monday, Wednesday, Friday, on Wednesday, you pick up your phone again, do what it tells you, leave. So this is the system that was going. It's not like a goal. I didn't set out with a goal of losing so many pounds or any such metric, but the system that came out of having this app set me up to now progress to some other forms of exercise that are, little less systematic. But now I'm able to do it by myself because the system was already in place and it's been imbibed into who I am, right? So that worked out great. The other thing I set out to do was something related to music and, some amount of music composition, of which I did pretty much nothing. And that's totally fine. But there's one thing you actually suggested last year, and that was, you know what, why don't you go do some lessons or something? Like just set up a system for yourself where you have to go and show up for the lesson at a given time. When somebody is going to be waiting to teach you something, you have to go now. And that worked well, actually. I did take online lessons for some time, and that really helped my playing. Towards the later part of the year, I joined a community rock band, and now I have a system for that. Like on Sunday evenings, I go play music with this bunch of people, and it's going okay. That's all.
That is fun. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. I mean, even though you feel like you didn't practice enough or didn't check off some boxes on the learning on that front, it seems like you did.
Yeah, I got something going.
Some stuff different. Yeah.
Something was going. I told myself I'll write at least one post on my blog in 2022. Again, the grand total of posts I wrote was 0. I wrote 0 posts. So that was a total and utter failure. So that brings me to my this year's theme.
Okay.
My theme for this year is to do one thing at a time. That's pretty much it. It's very It seems very simple and it seems very obvious, but I have been particularly guilty of not doing this entirely. And I'll tell you a couple of different aspects. Okay, so I broke this up into like 4 core principles for myself. So the first principle for my yearly theme is like restrict. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restrict the number of things I do. Like there is literally no way I can do all the things that are out there. Like I can't go take surf lessons. No, I can't. At some point last year, I wanted to buy like rollerblades and try rollerblading. It's too much. I do not have time for that stuff. I have at most a couple of hours in a day. That has to fit in music, reading, podcast, kids, work, chores. It's ridiculous. So I need to restrict. I need to say no. If something has to come and I have to say yes to it, that has to be really exciting or really impactful in my life. Otherwise, I'm just going to say no to it. Even if it's super exciting, it's fine. I have to make room for it. So one method I have set up to do this is I have 2 to-do lists. Okay. And this is to the extent of to-do lists I'm going to make. Okay. I have one limited to-do list, which is ongoing, which will only have 10 items at it at any point in time. No more than 10 will ever enter that list. Then I have one unlimited list that goes on and on. I can add as much as I want. So every week I sit down and I review what it is from my unlimited bucket of things to do can make it into my top 10 list. And unless I finish something from that list, I don't pick up something from another list. So that is the way I'm going to restrict what I'm going to do. Okay, this is one thing at a time. I know it says 10, but
And I think the best way to set yourself up for success, considering the limited amount of time we have, is this. It's exactly this. Like you're only focusing on one thing at a time, and then you either take it to completion, or at some point you decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, and you discard it, and then you go to the next one.
Exactly. If the list,
so you're not going to put pressure on yourself to finish it. So the point is, you bring it to an end, and you bring it to an end before you go to the next one.
So I will not add. I will be conscious that my list of 10 is full, and I'm not going to stress about it. If anything has to make it to the list of 10, I'm going to either discard or complete, and that's it. Second core guideline, second core principle, I must say, is simply as simple as focus. Okay, which means that when I am working in my day job, that is going to be an entirely super focused session where I work for a fixed amount of time, maybe in 2-hour blocks, but that's going to be super focused. When I'm reading a book, I'm not going to check my phone. I am not going to do anything else. When I'm reading a book, I'm reading a book. When I'm playing games with the kids, I'm not going to think about the dishes or what I need to do over the weekend or what my to-do list looks like. Nothing of that sort. So this is kind of what comes to what you were saying. That's why I said, like, we did not talk about this before, but we have the same problems, as in our mind is always going to the next thing that has to be done. When I'm playing games with the kids, I'm thinking about, okay, maybe I should do the dishes and then read one chapter and then go to bed, Or when I'm reading, I'll be thinking, okay, tomorrow's the weekend, so maybe I should go out and do this thing, and maybe I'll do that thing. If I can do this stuff in the weekend, that is an accomplishment. So none of that stuff. When you're playing a game, you just play the game. When you're done with the game, you get up and you think about what you have to do next, and then do that with full focus, right?
On the topic of focus, right? So we've kind of forgotten what it is to concentrate. When we were in high school, 11th, 12th and stuff like that, pre-internet, of course, right? Early 2000s.
Yes.
The only distraction that we really had was either go out and play or computer games. And you if you go out and play, you would do that for like 2 or 3 hours. If you played computer games, you would do that for 2 or 3 hours, right? So we would sit in front of a table with a textbook and study for like 4 hours or something like that. I mean, do a whole bunch of time. Concentration, funnily enough, our parents used to tell us, you need to learn to concentrate. I used to get admonished as a kid, me and my brother, saying that, you sit down, you concentrate, you focus and get your work done. I mean, clearly parents have no idea how bad focus and concentration can get, right? Compared to my concentration now, it was really good before. And in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been learning to meditate through this app by Sam Harris called Waking Up. And I still have no clue what I'm doing. But I'm going through the lessons, and I can already see that once I get better at meditation, one of the first benefits that will come is I will regain this sense of concentration, being able to sit on a chair and not fidgeting and reading a book for like 2-3 hours without reaching out to the phone and going to YouTube or Instagram every 20 minutes.
It's a problem. It really is a problem. Like that's why I said, the tendency, because the kind of jobs we do doesn't always require us to talk to people all the time. Sometimes there's a lot of thought and thinking and doing. There is a tendency to open up a browser window and scroll through the news, watch this quick YouTube video of something, or even as simple as play music while you work and stuff like that. I have taken it to the level of I don't even play music when I work anymore. I work in complete silence. I don't put even, ambient music of any kind. Like, it's complete silence, and I work in completeness like that. And it is extremely productive, and I find that I don't need as many hours to do what I have to do. So by being where I am at that moment, it opens up so much more time for me to do other stuff later. And I don't have to worry about getting my work done, because it's done already. So it's working really well from what I've been trying. But let's see how long I can keep at it, actually. So because I have 2 more guiding principles, and that is basically to minimize. And to minimize, I mean that don't, go into excessive productivity hacks, Pomodoro timers, and, you name it. There's like so many of them out there, the productivity hacks, and you create like a very complex workflows. In the computer, you have apps that do a press of a button and it sets up so many things. So in the name of creating these workflows, it takes so much time to set up and maintain these workflows that the actual time that you gain from using a certain workflow is not valuable anymore. It takes too long to set up this efficiency rather than actually get gains out of it. So I'm going to keep it simple. Like when I do note taking, I have a notebook. I just write in a notebook. That's enough. There are so many note-taking apps and so much. I just write in a notebook. It works great. So minimize, keep it simple. Some things in the analog world are just fine. And Perfect. So we make use of that. Finally, it's like I have the last guiding principle I have is the optimize principle, which means that just stop at some point. There is an optimum point where you can stop worrying and stop fretting about things. And we've mentioned this before, the Pareto principle, where you can get to 80% of where you want to be with 20% of the effort. But the last 20% of your perfection that you want to get to is just too time consuming and it's not optimal. So keep in mind where that time lies, where that optimal point lies, and just go with that. And some of this we're applying to our podcast right now, right? We had all these complex workflows in the last bunch of episodes we made, but now we're kind of simplifying it. I think we want to get to the 80% of what we can get in terms of the studio gear we use, in kinds of the production workflows we do. And we just want to get it out there in a simple and fun way. So that way we can keep moving and have fun and have time to do other stuff too. That is basically my year of doing one thing at a time.
That's perfect. So restrict, focus, minimize, and optimize. This is so good. I think I can easily incorporate your theme into my mindset for the year too. This is exactly what I also, in my year of surrender, I also need to do the year of one by one.
That's why I said we have such similar themes. Also, we never even mentioned what the title of the themes to each other. It came out to be that we face the same kind of problems, I guess. So we have slightly different approaches to the problem. I have a very, what can I say? Here are my guiding principles, Newton's law 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have a more, philosophical approach to it. Going forward, the year of surrender. I think that speaks to our personalities in a way.
Perfect. Yeah, and also like I really like the last point of your optimize. Right. This used to happen to me a lot earlier on. I had very big systems of note taking. And for everything, I used to have systems for everything, for projects, this and that. That they kind of become a hindrance. And even for a podcast, we did, like you said, we had a fairly complex workflow. And two, if we are being honest with each other, that was paralyzing. In the second half of the year, we didn't put out as many episodes because, of course, we had a lot of things going on in our personal lives. But also, the thought of doing a podcast, the thought of doing an episode just seemed like a steep hill to climb because of the workflow we had. Recording was not a big deal, but what comes out of the recording? So we just gonna we have a simple YouTube setup. We're gonna record it, minimal editing. It doesn't matter if we stutter or rooms and ass or whatever it is. We're just gonna just put this thing up, and it's gonna be at least 80% as good, and we're okay with that.
So we hope.
Okay, we'll let the listeners tell us that. Oh god. Anyway, this is nice. So this is perfect. So if there is nothing else, should we end this?
Let's do it.
Are we good? Perfect. Awesome. All right. So
time
thanks for exactly. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Half Life Show. You can reach us on Instagram at halflife.show. Leave us a comment on this YouTube channel or send us a message on Instagram and tell us what your yearly theme is. and then we can all keep each other responsible through the year. And maybe if it's worthwhile, we will do a check-in halfway through the year and see how our year is going, and exchange some notes and see what needs fixing for the second half of the year. All right. See you next time.